floor is yours.
Awesome. Thank you. And hi, everyone. Glad you could make it out to our lightning talk today, which is going to be on the Bioline International project. So it's going to be, this talk will be facilitated by myself, along with our two publishing assistants for the summer, Kibati and Sachnur, and Estrella, who I mentioned earlier is working with us this summer, but won't be able to attend the meeting. She's also included one slide that we can also talk about. Yeah, so without further ado, we can just dive right on in. And the first thing I want to do is just talk about open access because open access is at the heart of what we do for Bioline. So you've probably already discussed open access in your studies at U of T or elsewhere, but for those of you who haven't, this might be kind of useful. And for those of you who are very familiar with open access already, just sorry for like the incredibly basic resummarization of it. But I mean, it's helpful to help reaffirm your understanding, or just if you're not very well versed in the open access sphere, it's helpful for that. So the concept of open access is it's constantly evolving, and there's like a variety of definitions for open access that you could pick and choose from. But one of the most influential definitions comes from what's called the Budapest Open Access Initiative. So I'm taking you way back, December 2001. So 20 years ago, the Open Society Institute called a meeting in Budapest. And at this meeting, this is where the Budapest Open Access Initiative was born, and it's where we get the partial definitions for open access on the screen. The I've read through what was talked about at the meeting, and it's kind of long, so I've just pulled out two parts that I wanted to highlight here. And that is literature that should be freely accessible online is that which scholars give to the world without expectation of payment. And the second part here being that open access to this literature means that it's freely available on public internet, allowing users to read, download, copy, distribute, etc. Um, there's also different levels of open access that I won't really get into. Like there's things gold, open access, platinum, green, and some of them do have a cost associated with them. But at least for Bioline International, we follow a completely free model. And another fun fact for everyone, but we all know Leslie is a big champion of open access and a longtime advocate for it. And he's one of the signatories on the Budapest Open Access Initiative. So he signed that before I even started school, way back when. But now I can talk a little bit about Bioline International, which is our practical open access alternative to those expensive and inequitably paywall locked literature. So Bioline International is a nonprofit scholarly publishing cooperative that's permitted to providing open access to journals published in the Global South. So if we unpack that, in other words, we host articles from journals all over the world online at no cost to the publishers and at no cost for you to download. So I've been working with Leslie on this project for several years now. I started when I was a student, although Bioline is actually way older than that. It was actually started in 1993 between the Center for Environmental Information in Brazil and the Electronic Publishing Trust in the UK. I don't know if anyone here was even born in 93, but that's how old Bioline is. But then in 2000, U of T Libraries took over that role that the EPT in the UK held. So that's why it's currently housed at U of T, and that's why we all have the opportunity to work there. And by we all, I mean us three plus Estrella. I've also included this little graphic highlighting what we call the Global South in red versus what we call the Global North in blue. So the Global South, for those of you who aren't super familiar with the term, it generally consists of those countries which are less resource rich, or there's lower levels of wealth, higher levels of wealth inequality, less political and economic freedom. And it doesn't correspond necessarily to the geographical north and geographical south, which is important to note. Like you can see Australia, the epitome of a southern country, is part of the global north. So that's just something to keep in mind for that. But now I'd also love to show you our actual Bioline website. I'm going to exit my slides, I think. I'm going to try to. There we go. Okay. So I'll show you our actual project website. Um, I'll zoom in a bit so it's a little more legible. But yeah, this is the Bioline homepage. We just kind of it's a landing page as most home pages are, but it just kind of has links to all the different parts you might want to read about. So if you go to About Bioline, we have our partnering organizations. Oh yeah, launched in 1993. Um, mission statement and collaborating journals. So again, this goes into like well, like the mission of Bioline International. I didn't include it in the presentation, but feel free to take a read through that on the website on your own, because it's a little long, so I won't read through it all. But if we check out this all journals list, this is showing all the journals that are currently actively updating in our system. I'm going to show you some of them in the next slide. But as you can see, we have a variety of journals from a variety of countries. Some countries we have multiple journals from, like Iran, we've got these two journals here. And we also have journals that are not always in English. So for instance, African Crop Science Journal is this one. They often publish in French. Oh wait, I'm skipping right ahead. But so if you click on a journal, you can go to their journal homepage here, and it just gives you a little information about the journals. You can see their editorial board, so who's working on this journal and where they're affiliated with. About this journal is the about page, and the available issues is what is really interesting for people. This shows all of the issues we currently have in Bioline for this journal. So we've been loading things for this journal since 1993, so we have a lot of issues. If I go back, we have 1,200 articles in our system for this journal. So we like to support African Crop Science Journal. We've been doing this for quite a while. But yeah, let's take a look at um, volume 29, number 1. So this is from 2021. So if you go to any of these, we have like a list of all the journal titles, um, sorry, all the article titles. We can check out the first one, the olfactory responses of Cytophilus Z maze. So you can click on that and you'll be brought to this. It's just an abstracting page. So we've taken the abstract from the journal and we've displayed it on the website. This allows people to access it without needing to actually download a full PDF. So if you're not necessarily having access to good bandwidth, you can just like read the abstract and save yourself the trouble of having to download an actual PDF. But it's also available in French, so we put the French abstract in here as well. It's fun for our publishing assistants when you have to do some processing in a language that you don't speak, and then your XML files filled with special characters and it's hard to read. So I get that. It's a little tricky, but it works out, and I think it's nice that we can include both on the website. But the Get PDF Full Paper is what you can click to just download the article for free. So as you can see, you've got the PDF in full. So these were the abstracts we copied. And yeah, you can just download this for free, save it to your computer to do with as you wish. And that's pretty much all of the articles in our system are available as free PDFs or as a web form in XML. So I'll pull back to our slides and I will present because that's how you do that. Awesome. So I'll also talk a little bit about some of the journals, just wanted to show where journals are coming from for the Bioline system. So we currently house 83 bioscience journals, 25 of which are currently being actively updated. So those actively updating ones are in the countries that I've colored green there. The ones that we have in the system but aren't active are those that I've highlighted in yellow. Um, so some of these journals, I've highlighted 5 of them here. We've got down here the Chilean Journal of Agricultural Research. I'm just putting some of the journals up. I'm not going to go through all 25, but they have really interesting articles about like crop science in Chile, like crop yields, nutritional values, things like that. Similar to that is the African Crop Science Journal. So they're located right over here in Uganda. We have the RMJ, the Rwanda Medical Journal. So Rwanda Medical Journal is actually only available online at Bioline International. So it's one of the journals that we like to make a priority to make sure that we're getting their stuff up, and because they don't really have an online presence other than on Bioline. Here's another one, the International Journal of Reproductive Biomedicine. They've changed their name a couple times since I started working for Bioline, but they have a lot of articles about fertility treatments and things of that nature. It's interesting. There's also forgot to mention the Chilean Journal of Agricultural Research. They have some nice pictures. I just like looking at the pictures in some of them. And zoological research. This one is hosted by the Kunming Institute in China. And this one's really neat because they have a whole bunch of articles about like new species they found in China or like branching off of species. And then they also include pictures to like show like how the species is differentiated from this one, maybe because it has like an extra digit on one of its appendages or something. So I like reading the zoological research ones. But yeah, those are just some of the journals we have in the Bioline system. And this little graph too. I put this together just to give us a sense of like how widely Bioline is used. So this is showing the number of full text downloads for open access papers on the Bioline website each year, going back 15 years. Yeah. So like if we look back to 2005, we're at about 2 million downloads for the year. Whereas last year in 2020, we actually had almost 15 million downloads. So I should have put commas in the side. And I mentioned that yesterday and I forgot to do it. But yeah, this is actually 15 million here. There is a little dip here at 2016, and I'm not sure what caused the dip. Could be we switched to a different server and some of our things didn't get caught up, or maybe we changed the counting for this. But either way, there's a gradually increasing trend as you go on from 2004 to 2022, or well, will be in 2022 eventually. But yeah, it's just nice to see how widely used our site is even today. And finally, Estrella's included this. We have a Bioline news blog, and Estrella is actually working on making a blog post. She's picking an article or a journal issue that's interesting, going to write a little bit about it to share on the blog post and hopefully generate some traction there. But I'll just pull up the blog. Oh, actually, I think I have it pulled up. Uh, that's not me. There we go. Yeah, so this is our blog page. One of the things that Estrella and I want to do is like do some visual overhauling on it to make it look a little more visually appealing, maybe a little more accessible. But yeah, we post things here. It's been a while since we've had a post. We did put one up, but we had to remove it just because of the journal that it was involved with. But yeah, we do announcements for journals. Sometimes we'll have a write-up on a particularly interesting article to some of our work study students. So they can do like a small editorial or a summary. And yeah, we have a lot of posts going quite far back actually. Yeah, I haven't written any articles yet. I've helped people pick them though, so I do have a little insight there. If you do have any ideas for what you'd like a blog to look like or how you think we can make it more accessible or visually appealing, please let us know. We're all ears. We're going to be doing some design work on it soon. But yeah, in the meantime, feel free to send your ideas to me and Estrella, and we'd love to hear from you about that. But that's it for me. I think I can toss things on over then to Kibati if you'd like to go.
Yeah, thank you, Matthew. Let me just share my screen very quickly. So I'm actually Matthew's done a great job of showing you all of Bioline. I'm gonna give you like an insight to just a little piece of it by showing you one of the journals that I appreciated and took some time to learn a bit more about. So sharing my screen and presenting. Okay, sorry. Okay, so what I'm gonna share about this journal is called African Population Studies, and it's actually published by the Union of African Population Studies. So this is their logo, but the journal itself is just called African Population Studies. Like Matthew mentioned, they do have both English and French. So in some of their articles, they do have a bit of French in there, and they talk mainly about population dynamics in different countries in Africa. So when I was doing some processing for the different articles, I came across one of theirs and I thought it was pretty interesting. So I'm going to share that with you and what I thought about that specific article from this specific journal. Just to show you how important these journals are, they do have a wide range of different types of articles. So in here, it might not be as legible, but I hope you can see it. AA which is in the second row on the left-hand side, is called a regular article. And these are the ones that are simply just research, usually have a lot of data and information. Those are the most popular articles. However, there are a lot of different other ones in the entire journal. So each journal has like one volume. And in that volume, it's going to have different kinds of articles. And these are the different kinds that you can have. So there will be the regular article, which is just research. Another one that we get very often is an editorial, which we have again on this left-hand side called ED. And this is usually like the editor talking about what the specific volume is about, saying what was very interesting, saying their personal opinion, trying to basically talk to the readers, telling them what they can look forward to in the rest of the issue slash volume. So yeah, just showing how there's so many different types of articles that you can find on Bioline. They're not all just research, but they are all very interesting. So the article that I've chosen to share, this is its Bioline article code. It is EP 20003, very technical. To break that down, EP, just so in every Bioline code, it's going to have first two letters. Those two letters represent the journal that it comes from. So EP here is talking about the African population study. So that's its code. And this just helps us as proofers when we're publishing them online to easily find the different articles and find the different journals. Because if you have all of the names all the way out, it can be a little tedious to type them all out. So that's what EP stands for, just the journal itself. 20 stands for the volume that it comes from. So this would be the 20th volume of this journal. So each journal will have like volume 1, volume 2, volume 3. So this is the 20th journal. And the final three numbers there, 003, that just means issue 3 / article 3. So this is altogether the third article from the 20th volume of African population studies. So just wanted to show you how that would look when you're online. I'm sure you saw Matthew's share of the whole table that had all those different numbers. That's what this is. So this article is titled Nigeria Demographic Report, the Effect of Overpopulation on Life Expectancy. So I personally was attracted to this first off because it's about Nigeria, which is where I'm from. And as Matthew mentioned, we were looking at different articles from the global south and trying to be able to publish these more to get more traction for them. When I was in my first year, I did try to write an assignment one time on Nigeria, and I found like no information that I was looking for. And I think that's one of the very important things about Bioline, that when we're looking for a lot of information about the global south, we're able to find that information. Not only are we able to find it, we usually find information about the global south written by people in the global south. So a lot of these journals are coming straight out of the global south as well, which is very, very good. A summary of this article, it talked about overpopulation in the global south countries, specifically Nigeria, and how that often leads to lower life expectancy. It actually did a great job of explaining how this happens, which was the availability of resources, a strain of medical care, the environment. As more people are in the country, there's more degradation, there's more demand on doctors and pharmacies. And there's also a higher dependency on economic growth because there needs to be more money to sustain more people. And then finally, it went on to talk about the effects of overpopulation and how we might be able to mitigate them, which was something that I personally drew to in the article. It talked about better education, legislation, and family planning services. So that was a brief summary about the entire article. What appealed to me the most from this article was that it included in-depth discussions and recent statistics and analyses on Nigeria's population dynamics. Like I said, the last time I tried to write an essay on Nigeria, I didn't find much information. So it was very different to me to see an article with so much information. It was like a very bipolar opposite. Before I couldn't find one article, and now I had one with a lot of information. So that was very good to see. And I'm sure the rest of Bioline is just as good. The next thing I found very appealing was that it related to experiences of global north and global south in a non-historical, more comparative sense. a lot of the time when we see articles about global north and global south, they're all about the history, or at least that I've read so far, they're all about the history of what the global north has is doing or has done, and how we can improve that. But this did a more comparative sense, and like the global south is experiencing this, and the global north actually is also experiencing this in a different way. And it tried to, for me, it tried to show that the global south isn't always as underdeveloped as we might think, that the same problems that people are facing in the global south are being faced in the global north, which is very good to see. Finally, it provided causes of and methods to resolve the issue, and it showed more than just a problem. So I say this because reading it, in my own opinion, that is what I saw. However, if you read it, you may think it may be weighted too much on the issue and not enough on the solutions. Another thing about the solutions is that I personally did not even agree with all of them, but it was still good to see that they were there in the article, because some articles do just talk about the problem and maybe not give as much as emphasis on the solutions that can come from their study. Very quickly, I just want to show you how Bioline also makes you want to learn more about other things. So after I read this article, I actually went to do a bit of research outside the article to learn about population in Nigeria. Bayelsa State, just to give a very quick example, is actually the smallest state in terms of population in Nigeria. But funny enough, it is actually as large as 8% of all of Canada's population. And that's just one state in Nigeria is as big as 8% of Canada's population. Its population is also larger than 9 of Canada's provinces. So its population by Elsa is about 2 million. And the other 9 provinces, I think the closest one was about 1.5 million, just showing like the very stark difference between that one state and Canada's entire country. And then again, to emphasize that even more, that one state is 40 times as dense as Canada in terms of population. So the space, counting the space of all of the people, it's 40 times as dense, but the land mass or land size is actually 927 times smaller. So the article didn't give all of this information. It just talked about how it is overpopulated, but this information allows you to put that in perspective. And this can happen to anyone that reads any Bioline article. It definitely shows like, makes you want to learn more because you're now interested and have now learned from a different perspective that you may never see. So that's what I wanted to share. And I will hand over to Satchmar. Thank you.
Thank you, Kivati. I'm just going to share my screen. Second. Can everyone see the slide? Okay. So for the last bit of this lightning talk, I'm just going to share a little bit about the XML processing work that Matthew, Kivati, and I do at Bioline. So, so basically for a publishing assistant, there are 4 stages that we have from the time that we get the articles from the publisher to the time that they're published onto the Bioline website. So first, there's a downloading stage, which is where we just download all the files from the publisher and fill out the information that we want on the Bioline site. Then it's followed by the XML processing stage, which is where we open up XML and we basically just go through and make sure that all the information is there and we fix formatting. And then there's the proofing stage, which is where the XML file is uploaded and we can see on a staging server what it would look like once it's published onto the Bioline site. And so any mistakes or anything we can catch there. And then the final stage is just once it's uploaded to the Bioline site, we do a second proofing, which is where, again, we just make sure that everything looks good. And if any additional changes are needed, we do them then. So a little bit about XML. I'm sure some of you have heard of HTML. XML, the format is quite similar to it in that they both use very similar tags, which I will talk about more in 1 second. And the XML files that we work on, they're uploaded to our servers to display journal abstracts on the Bioline site. So like Matthew showed you on the website, the article like abstract and that information, we actually get that from, like you can see that in the XML file. And the table that I have down here, these are just some of the tags that we have in XML files. So you can see they're for formatting. So there's different things we can do. We can bold, italicize, subscript, superscript, all of these things, because we want to make sure that the abstract and the journal information, it looks the exact same as it does in the PDF. So the tags are really easy to use. The middle column is what we see in the XML file. So we just kind of put them around whatever it is that we want to be contained within the tag. And then on the right is what we see is on the website once it's rendered. So they're really easy to use. Here is what it actually looks like, an XML file once you open it up. So during the processing stage, this is what we look at. You can see the different tags. They also they basically label pretty clearly what it is that needs to be contained within them. So we have up at the top the article tag, which includes journal information like the volume, the number, the publication year and month, and then also the article type. So RA here would be a review article. And then underneath it, we have all the author tags. So we have the authors listed in the same order as they are in the PDF, one by one. Followed by the title tag, one for the abstract, keywords, and then the copyright information below. And we want everything to look the exact same as it does in the PDF. So even if there are any like spelling errors, we don't fix them to maintain journal integrity. So we just want everything to be exactly the same as it is from the publisher. And all we do here is we fix the formatting to make sure everything's right. So if something's bolded in the PDF, we want to make sure that it's bolded on the Bioline site as well. And it looks a little overwhelming at first. I mean, the first time I saw it was during my first training session, but it's actually really straightforward because you can see the tags, they clearly say like here, title. All we really have to do is copy and paste the title and then make sure that the formatting is right. And then here, also within the abstract, you can see sometimes in journal articles, they have species names, and they're pretty easy to recognize in a journal article because they're two parts and they're italicized. And so on the Bioline site, this is actually pretty interesting, that once we have the XML file open, we can highlight it, and then there's a shortcut where we add a species link. So I can actually show you what it looks like. So this is what it would look like in the PDF up here, and then below it, that's once we add the species link, that's what it looks like in the XML file. That's not what it looks like on the website. I will just open it up briefly. So right here is what, like Matthew showed you before, we have the abstract and the title and information about the journal. So here we have a species link, which is, you can see it's the species name. And once you click this little box on the side here, it shows you a database. Sometimes it takes a minute or two to load. But yeah, here it opens up the database containing like the species names, and readers can use this to find more information about the species. So that's really interesting. And we do that for wherever there's a species mentioned in articles. Sometimes it's not on the database, which is fine. We just italicize it, but most of the time it's on there. And yeah, that's it. Thank you for listening to our lightning talk, and we'd love to answer any more questions.
Thank you, everyone. Oh, yes, I see a hand up from Maggie.
Thanks, everyone. It was great to get a peek into the back end and just the overall kind of purpose, and to see those numbers. That was also really, it's a great reminder. Sometimes I think, oh, we use like Google Scholar or Utrana libraries, like you can find everything you need. And then I learned Kibati, you couldn't find stuff about Nigeria or like that. Yeah, it's so hard to find. And I guess my question is actually related to that. And I know Leslie often talks about this and he's not here today, but I'm just curious, like why these journals aren't like indexed in other places as much, or like what are like the main barriers to getting it visible on all of these different places? I noticed some of them do have DOI, so I'm assuming, you know, some of them are, but like what are the main preventers from getting them seen on all of these different search engines and stuff?
So some of them are indexed in other places as well as Bioline, but some of the main barriers are technological constraints. So there's some journals that just do not have a technical infrastructure to support hosting online on like their own website. Some journals do, like they'll put up their own website and they'll host all their articles there, but other journals, they're not able to do that technical infrastructure side. And another one is the cost, because sometimes you'll have to pay to host your articles or to host your journal with certain like hosting services. With Bioline International, there's like a subscription-based model as well if you want to support Bioline International, but we don't charge to download the articles and we don't charge to upload the articles. So those are, in my experience, the two main barriers that are affecting these publishers.
Great, thank you. Yeah, that's helpful.
Any other questions? Yes, I see one from Alec.
Sorry, I can't seem to find the raise hand button in the participants. I don't know, but anyway, I was wondering, like, so the articles that get cataloged and published through Bioline, are they all articles that don't have a publisher otherwise, or are there some articles that are affiliated with publishers that you're also able to put out through open access? Like, how does that work?
It's so there's some articles that are hosted or they're held in other open access repositories, but we just also will put them in our online system. If a journal does get bought out by like you can call them a predatory publisher if you want, but if they do get bought out by someone that puts their articles behind a paywall, at that point we're not able to index them anymore, because then we'd have to buy them to access them. But yes, there's a few journals that are only on Bioline, and then there's a few that are on Bioline plus other open access repositories.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good question.
Okay, so we are hitting 2 o'clock. Want to say a quick thing so much. I don't know if you want to say any final words actually before we formally close, but I found that very insightful and a refreshing reminder. Even though I've known of Bioline for many years, it was good to get a kind of deep dive. So thank you for that. Yeah, do you want to close us off actually, Matthew, or Bioline team?
Yeah, I'll thank the team for working to put together this presentation. It was nice to have our different insights all put together and just showcase what you've been working on, some things you found interesting. A lot of the times we spend all this time reading, like just reading the XML files, and we don't actually take in the information. So it's kind of insightful to see that, yeah, it's actually there. You can actually take it in, you can take notes, you can learn more. But yeah, thank you all for your hard work, and thank you everyone for listening.